My friend is gone, but the thing that grew inside her is still here with me. There's no warehouse anymore. Just us, on an island of concrete floating in an endless silent black. The metal racks that are left have twisted into skeletal shapes, like animal ribs picked clean. The air is so thick with the taste of rust, it's like breathing in old blood. And the floor just keeps falling away, piece by piece, crumbling into the nothing that surrounds us. We were huddled together under the sickly white glow of my laptop screen. That was before I looked into the pit where the break room used to be. A perfect circular maw had opened up in the concrete, and I, like a fucking idiot, had to see what was at the bottom. I wish I hadn't. I held the laptop out over the edge, angling the screen down. The light cut a weak cone into the dark and landed on a pile of bodies. Not skeletons. Flesh. Rotting, yes, but still flesh. Bloated torsos gashed with yellow and a purple so deep it was almost black. Some were just bones, jumbled together like forgotten firewood, but most were horrifically, recognizably human. The sight hit my stomach like a punch. I dropped the laptop, barely catching it by the corner before it tumbled into the abyss. Then I was just retching over the side, my body trying to expel a horror it couldn't process. Nothing came up. I was empty. The pit was deep. I couldn't see the bottom. But the top of the pile, the top of that mountain of death, was only a few yards down, close enough to see their faces. Close enough to see the pleading in their dead, milky eyes. Their arms were all frozen at odd angles, reaching, clawing, trying to climb a ladder made of other people's bodies. One of them broke me. I saw her, and the world just stopped. Serena crawled over to me, her movements weak and sluggish. She tried to pull me back from the edge, her voice a thin whisper. I just shook my head, my hand clamping over her eyes. Don't look. Please, Serena, don't look. A little girl. Couldn't have been more than 8 or 9. She was tangled in the limbs of 2 other bodies, her face turned up directly towards me. One of her pigtails had come undone. Her flesh was still, recent, taut over her small bones. A life stolen so fresh it hadn't even had the decency to fully decay yet. She must have been so scared, stuck here, alone. I pulled back from the edge and just cried, for a long time. I cried for the little girl. I cried for the mountain of forgotten people beneath her. I cried for Serena. I cried for me. Serena was getting worse. The cold was seeping into her skin, a deep, unnatural chill, even as sweat beaded on her forehead. She'd forget where we were, who I was for a few seconds. Her eyes would go distant, lost in a fog only she could see. It was a sign. I should have known what was coming. We laid on the floor, the concrete leaching the last of our warmth away. The silence was a physical weight, pressing down on us. Tell me a story, Zev, she whispered, her voice cracking. Anything. I can't stand the quiet, so I talked. I told her about us, about the stupid inside jokes, and the time we got drunk on cheap wine and tried to build a bookshelf. When I ran out of our stories, I told her about my childhood. About summers at my grandmother's house, the smell of cut grass and ozone before a thunderstorm. I talked about my family, the faces I could barely picture anymore, the family I knew I'd never see again. A cold hand touched my cheek. I flinched. You're crying again, Serena said, not a question. A fact. A weak smile touched her lips. You bleed memories for me. You're a good man, Zev. You didn't deserve any of this. Neither did you, I choked out. She drifted into a fitful sleep after that, her brow furrowed in a permanent wince of pain. And that's when I saw it. She shifted, and the hem of her shirt rode up an inch, exposing the pale skin of her stomach. And there, on her left side, was a lump. A bulge under the skin. It wasn't big, but it was wrong. It was a sickness made visible. Over the next, I don't know, hours, days, time is soup here. It grew. The lump became a sac, a putrid, veiny thing sprouting from her abdomen. It swelled, stretching the skin until it was translucent, hanging off her like some obscene fruit. Soon it was so large, so heavy, she couldn't move. It pinned her to the floor, pulsing with a slow, sickening rhythm. She just laid there, writhing whenever it moved. I held her hand. Her tears were silent now. Her gaze was fixed on the thing attached to her, a confused, horrified disbelief on her face. Her free hand trembled as she rested it near the rippling membrane. Then we both saw it. Something pressed against the inside of the skin. A shape. Long and thin. A finger. Serena gasped. The fog in her eyes burned away, replaced by pure, sharp terror. The slow, groggy haze she'd been in was gone. She was awake, she was lucid, and she was trapped. "Zev," she rasped, her fingers digging into my hand, her knuckles white. "Help me. Get it out. Please, Zev. Get it OU." Her fingers scrabbled at the concrete as the mass swelled again. A dark, wet patch was spreading on the floor beneath her. Blood. The skin was starting to tear. "Fuck. It's okay. It'll be okay," I lied. The words tasted like ash. I couldn't breathe. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. I ripped off my shirt, pressing the fabric uselessly against the tear, but it was like trying to stop the tide with a handkerchief. She arched her back, a scream tearing from her throat, a sound of pure agony that echoed in the infinite dark. I saw them again, the outlines of hands, pushing, spreading the tear. I recoiled, my own hands hovering uselessly in the air. I wanted to run. Every cell in my body screamed at me to get up and run and never look back, but my knees were locked. My eyes were glued to the horror unfolding in front of me. I was watching my best friend give birth to one of them. The smell hit me. Iron and shit and something else. Something sweet and rotten, like flowers left to die in a vase. I don't want to die. Please. Zev, help me. She begged. She fucking begged me to save her, and I just knelt there, frozen. Useless. My heart didn't just break. It turned to dust and blew away, leaving a hole just as black and empty as the one we were trapped in. Her screams reached a peak, a high, thin wail that vibrated in my teeth. And then, silence. Her body went slack, slumping against the bloody floor. Her energy was spent. My vision swam. "Serena?" I reached for her. The sack burst. Not with a pop, but with a wet, tearing sound. Long, pale fingers curled around the shredded edges of her skin and pulled. Something began to unspool itself from the wound, its movements stiff and jerky. Yellowish pus oozed from the cavity as it worked itself free. Its spine cracked and popped as it straightened. It was drenched in her blood, its thin black hair matted to a skull that was just a little too long, a little too narrow. It slid free, landing on the concrete with a slap of wet meat. It unfolded itself, a nightmare of limbs and joints that bent the wrong way. And it stood there, unsteady. A newborn thing. It turned its head, and it looked at me. There was no face, just a smooth, blank expanse of skin. But I felt it. I felt it look right through me. Then it was gone. It didn't scuttle. It didn't run. It just stepped into the darkness and vanished. I was alone, alone with the body of my friend. Her eyes were open, the terror of her last moments forever etched onto her face. Even in death, there was no peace. I didn't cry. I think maybe I was no peace. I didn't cry. I think maybe I was out of tears. Or maybe my brain just shut down to protect itself. I don't know. I just sat there. I sat there as the warm pool of her blood soaked into my jeans, grew cold, and turned stiff and crusty. She was an incubator. Some fucked up part of their reproductive cycle. The thing that wore her face up in that office must have done something to her. To us. And now her body had served its purpose. It made a new one. And it will watch me. It will do whatever it did to her. And the same thing will happen to me. I thought about pushing her into the pit. I couldn't stand looking at her. But I couldn't do it. She deserved more than to be thrown away on a pile of strangers. So I took my bloody shirt and gently laid it over her face. I said a few words. Apologies she would never hear. Now I just sit here, in the dark, waiting. But it's not for death, not exactly. I keep feeling my side, prodding my stomach, searching for a lump, a pulse, a twitch under the skin. Anything. The waiting is the worst part.